Good morning, everybody. And it's Teepa, and I have two guests with me today for Time with Teepa. And both of these ladies come from Alabama. I feel like I have to say it that way. No, that's crazy, but Alabama. That sounds more proper. And they have a program that we're very excited about, and it's fairly unique. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. One person you can see already is Susanna. She's very present. And the rest of us, well, I'm either a positive approach to care or unlabeled. I'm not sure which one. And we have Ellie as well. So talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit. Who are y'all and what are
Okay.
you up to that's so special?
Well, I am Susanna from Alabama, and we've heard that one a lot,
Oh,
and it's
that
actually true.
just hit me. Oh my. Have
I
you got a
know.
banjo? Now that's super important
Had
to
the
know.
banjo surgically removed from my knee,
I'm
but
so
that's
glad we
another
got
that's another show.
because that was
What
a
I'm
big
doing
issue going
now
on.
is working with folks with dementia of mild to moderate stages and now also early stages. The name of the program is Founder's Place. We have three components. One is a social program, one part is caregiver support, and the other is what I call community support and inspiration, or community education and inspiration. And I'm the executive director.
Yeah, and then I'm the associate director. My name is Ellie Johnson. I'm a social worker and um, came up with this idea kind of collaboratively. I've been here for a few years, and we thought of a series to specifically support our people in our community in early stages because our social program supports people in mild to moderate stages, like Susanna said. Um, and so just wanting to continue to serve these people. Um, so it's been great so far.
Well, it has, and we have a support group for caregivers,
Mhm.
but we did not find anything in person that was a support group for people with early stage. And that was really
Yeah.
the catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
And and so you decided to structure it though, not just
Yeah,
have it running forever and ever. There's structure
correct.
to it. So talk a little bit about that because that's interesting. But I also agree with you on it because way back long ago, when I was with the Alzheimer's Association in Eastern North Carolina, we ran a group for men. Ours turned out to be all men. It just so happened at that time. And we're in early state of change. And their wives were all in a support group. And rather than offer respite, we ran a men's support group. Um, and so I ran
Yes.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are ways and ways to do it, right?
Mhm.
One way is online, and I know you're very familiar with Dementia Action Alliance and Council of for Dementia Minds.
Nines.
So they
Yep.
have a lot of online options, and we were aware of some of those, but we could not find anything that was in person. And we had been getting not tons, but enough inquiries to know that it was a need. And yes, we decided to do a manualized 10-week program. But as Ellie can tell you, as often is, you start with one thing and then you move to another thing when you
Yeah.
respond to needs. So we started with a particular structure, but we have found other ways that we think are serving our group.
Yeah. So I guess early on when we started to formulate our ideas, it was a combination of assessing those needs that were coming into our program and saying, at that point, we couldn't meet those needs for early stage people. They wanted to come to our care partner support group and things like that. Wanted to hold boundaries and support them as directly and as accurately and as we could. And really started to research a lot of the care that is needed from people when they're first diagnosed. There's a discontinuity of care in regard to social support. And some of it we're already meeting, but some of it in early stage, people want to talk about it. They need that social support. Um, and so serving those folks who that continuity of care was broken in regard to social support. They had their immediate family, they might have friends that they could talk to, but in regard to the stigma, people are still uncomfortable with it in general. And so creating a space that is comfortable and safe and is meeting those needs with people that are also experiencing it So as we're co-facilitating this, we're also aware and have verbalized when we want to hold this space. And also, we're not in that position of experiencing brain change or having a diagnosis ourselves. And so, having that awareness of going into it, how can we hold this space for people? I think it's really important, especially as a social worker and as someone who has just served in this capacity for a while, wanting to meet people's needs in a mental health capacity within our scope.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we talk a lot about is still living life with purpose, finding your new purpose in living life. Now that you're on the other side of a diagnosis, you know what you got something that's going to change you, it's going to change your life. So, how are you still going to live with purpose? And, that can be a real challenging question for folks. And so, some people find dementia minds and some people find dementia alliance, and it gives them that opportunity because they can mentor one another, do some peer mentoring. But you all have gone to a support group model, and I'm curious because I know my experience from, well, 15 20 20 22 years ago, back in the day, was that as my men changed over time, the women wanted to keep running and doing their support group. That was cool. So I was finding myself as the facilitator trying to figure out, as some people were progressing much more rapidly than others, and others had issues that the other group members weren't having, we were finding it like, and they were all men, which was an interesting phenomena. So we started to do things like we take our temperature when we came in the room, like, how are you feeling on the scale, how are you doing? And they have faces, and they could put their face where, whatever face they wanted to bring in to their emotional face. And then we'd go to a bowling alley and bowl for a little bit, and then
Wow.
we'd come back and we'd talk about stuff then, because they were more willing to talk about stuff after we went and did something. They could talk about the experience, talk about how they felt about it, all those things, because it
Yeah.
gave them like a concrete focus. Because it turned out 20 some years ago, what we thought was early state, people had already been living with dementia for like 5, 8, 10 years,
Sure.
because they
Absolutely.
didn't get their diagnosis until really pretty significantly into a
Right.
journey.
Hmm.
So it was like, oh, not really early state after all. But how about yours? So what are you all experiencing?
Well, we haven't gone bowling yet, but that's a really great idea. But we do have a format that we hold, but we also hold it a little loosely. So, yes, there is a gathering touch point. Shortly after we greet, we always have some food.
Oh yeah.
Ellie usually makes some, brownies or cookies or something like that.
Sugar?
We
You're
set,
giving these men sugar? It's like, yes, yes,
yes,
because when you get sugar,
we
you're
have
more
the
likely
room.
to produce information.
We have the room.
Truth drug.
Well, first of all, we mark the way to the room in the building
Mhm.
very well with lots of signs. So someone in early stage can self navigate.
Mhm.
We always have them in the same place. When you enter the room, it always looks the same. We have our table, we have our tablecloth. After we greet for a little while and just chit chat, I will light a candle, and that will signal the beginning of our real
Nice.
intentional time. And then we'll spend about 5 minutes in mindfulness. I usually do a body scan. I have a background in yoga and movement, and so I'll draw from that. And we will do an inventory of feeling the feet on the ground. Imagine your breath moving up through your legs, into your belly, into your heart space, into your head. And so at the end of about 5 to 7 minutes, we're pretty zenned out for, like we've
Yeah.
gone from this kind of energy, all frantic and chit chatty to just a little bit more
Nice.
grounded. So that's how we set the tone. And then we will go into some specific questions or activities. The questions that we used this last time are to write down 3 emotions that you felt upon diagnosis about your
Mm.
diagnosis. Everybody wrote that down, so of course they don't have to remember it.
Mhm.
And then we went around the circle. People are welcome to speak about that, or they're welcome to pass for now, and we'll come back, or they can just pass. Um, and then generally there is an activity, a hands-on
Mhm.
activity. Ellie, you want to talk about the last one we did with the clay?
Yeah, so we incorporated some clay, adult clay,
Mhm.
not Play-Doh, adult
Right.
clay. Um, and then we use this to symbolize our grief and our feelings and our hopes. And we just talked about that for some time about how we can continue to process the emotions that we were talking about early in our discussion and continue that of how we can kind of wrap it up in a clean space without, yeah, feeling like people were dysregulated as they were leaving.
Mhm.
And we
Cool.
also, in all these conversations, lean into our group norms.
Oh, that was exactly what I was thinking. That's
And
actually the
Ah,
first thing that we do as a group is
yeah,
to review our group norms.
yeah, and it's just expectations that are dementia
how we
friendly, not
set
too
our
detailed.
guideline.
Yeah, just like
Mhm.
any other support groups could do, of, why we're here, how we're going to respect one another, what our goals are. I think that's really important to have boundaries within the group of what to expect, what not to expect, how we're interacting with one another,
Yeah.
confidentiality. Um, and some of our group members have voiced to us that they find comfort in knowing what to expect, what not to expect, how to dress, or what to bring to the group, what to talk about. Those are things we talked about in our intake phone calls as we were forming our group, and an ongoing basis of what's appropriate to talk about and how can we support one another on our journeys that are different but similar.
So we
So
do
I'm
have a
curious because,
rhythm.
yeah, because one of the things that I have found is you can always talk about your personal experience, but what we rarely all agree is that we're not going to give each other advice, but we can speak to my experience. And it sounds like your experience is similar. It sounds like it's different, but that
Yeah.
idea, just like we do in support groups, is like, it's not advice giving. I mean, that's really not what we're doing. We're sort of sharing our experience. And by doing that, we can learn from one another.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Curious.
within
Yeah.
that, we learned that our group members wanted a lot of advice. So we kind of
Mhm.
changed it a little bit to, you know, Teepa, would you like some feedback? Would you like to see how I've done it in my journey? And you
Cool.
approach it that way versus shoving, my experiences or my opinion down someone else. That might not be welcome.
Nice.
And our group has really welcomed that. They are eager to learn together, and they've
Nice.
benefited both from each other. And I just sit there with my mouth shut, and they provide that feedback to one another, and it's so life-giving to see that they are experiencing that and taking it home and trying it out. And they'll come back the next week. I tried the breathing exercise, I felt better, I slept good.
Mhm.
And they're gaining from one another in a way that I can't give.
And
Yeah.
Teepa, earlier Ellie mentioned about leaning into or leaning away from rather the stigma that is still
Mhm.
present. We all know this.
Oh.
And one thing that is helpful on a bigger level, right, is that we're seeing celebrities like Emma
Mhm.
Willis, wife of Bruce Willis, talking openly, writing her book. We have someone in the group that is well known in our community, and his attendance and his openness about attending
Mhm.
with his early stage diagnosis has given this support group a bit more standing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
about
Two thumbs
time.
up.
I mean, it's been a long time since Richard was around. I mean, the very first person who stepped up and stepped out and said, "Hey, listen, I'm living with this, but I am
Right.
actually still skillful." And Kate in Australia. So it's really exciting to see this sort of program making its way out and about. And I am betting that if people out here listening to us are curious and want to learn more, you guys would be open to getting some requests in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We would love to talk with anyone about it. We are all learning all the time. And the
Always.
way we do it will be different from the way Dementia Action Alliance does it,
Mhm.
different from Council of Dementia Minds. But of course, we are open and we just want to see a whole lot of more of these groups form.
Exactly. We really know that this peer support and this guided peer support is essential when we're talking about people who may be coming into their dementia having had symptoms for quite some time, having just started some symptoms. We know that there's going to be a mixed bag of individuals coming into this with different dementias and different capabilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
having a little guide rail in place can be super helpful in some cases. And
Yes.
Yeah.
sounds like you guys have done a great job of creating that, the guide rails, as we call them,
Well, we
or
are
guardrails.
trying.
Guide rails, guardrails, maybe both.
Either way, yeah.
Guardrail,
Same goal.
guardrails to guide us. And
Yeah.
we did settle on 10 weeks. We felt like that was
Mhm.
long enough for
Yeah.
people to really form a connection. And yet it was short enough that we would ensure that, well, maybe not ensure, but pretty good bet that we would be able to continue in conversation for
Yeah.
2.5 months in this
Yeah.
many of the same ways. So that,
Okay, so now here's the real question. You've run it for a while, right?
well, we are in week 7.
Mhm.
Oh, here's going to be the interesting thing. So I want to come back and talk to you again. The guys don't want to break up. They
Yeah.
do not want to break up, which is when we started just running bowling time. The guys would come and that's a whole nother group that we had
Hmm.
because they wanted to keep going, but they were more friends than they were anything else.
Absolutely. They formed
And
those
so were the
relationships.
wives. So the
So we're going
wives,
to see.
yeah. So you'll see where this
Yeah.
is going. But I'll check back with you because that's what happened, 20 plus years ago,
Hmm.
was that the guys actually got to where they liked each other. And that's what we find in our community here is that people
Yes.
like
Hmm.
each other and they start
Hmm.
hanging out together like real friends, like because
Like
they
real
are,
friend, like people do.
like because
Yeah.
they are.
And that
And
was
dementia doesn't
Exactly.
stop that. And it's not some
no,
artificial friendship, it's the real deal.
it's real. And that was part of the reason we named our support group Forward Together, because we don't want people to take on their diagnosis as a new identity. It's certainly part of their new life, but we don't want that to be their identity. We want it to be creating accessible ways to move forward together. How can we continue to cultivate relationships, care for one another, and be rooted in love as we move forward? Your life isn't over. There's so much joy and potential to be had, and moving forward together in this way is just a way that we can destigmatize and support these folks.
Learning to live with
Yeah,
something, but not be something. Cool.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, this is super exciting, and so I've got a feeling we're going to get some questions in, and so we'll refer people over. There's actually a hashtag down there for connections. Matthew will also make sure any comments come over, and we get responses, and we bring them back. So for everybody out there, if you're wondering, is this possible? Could you do this? Check it out because we believe,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We encourage you to do it and get in touch. We'd love to help.
yeah.
yeah, Alabama, North Carolina, we're next.
That's right.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Till next time, take care with
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.